And if we look at this one, they have a decent amount of glycolytic capacity, meaning breaking down glucose and switching to anaerobic mechanisms when required. When the muscle's really stressed out and it needs some instant energy, and you can't wait for all the processes of the breakdown of glucose, glycolysis followed by the TCA cycle followed by the electron transport chain. Right, so that one's a moderate effect. Then after that you have your circa ATPase activity. So remember circa ATPase that takes the calcium back into the L tubules after contraction, so it causes relaxation. Well, that's moderate, it's not so high, so that causes slow relaxation. So for the muscle contraction and relaxation, it takes a little while. That's why the muscle is slow, because of this. And the motor neuron size is small. Now remember, if the motor neuron size is small, that means that motor neuron is less excitable compared to a motor neuron which is a wider diameter neuron. So you would think that these motor units are the last to be activated or recruited during a contraction, but it's the other way around. These slow oxidative fibers are actually the first to be recruited. Even though their motor neuron is the least excitable in the muscle, the circuitry in the brain is such that it will activate these motor units first, okay, the ones which are innervated by the small muscles. That's how the wiring in your nervous system is placed. So the twitch duration is around 90 milliseconds, and it has a tetanizing frequency that is low. What is tetanizing frequency? So I'm going to talk about this in some more detail, but just know, when you give an action potential and you try to plot the graph of the strength of contraction, you get this little flicker of contraction that takes place. So there's a little bit of a contraction that takes place and followed by relaxation in the muscle. If you give another action potential, you get another contraction followed by relaxation. What if you want a sustained contraction? Like if you want to hold your hand out for some time, hold a glass of water while you're serving somebody, so you're stretching your hand out over there for a while until he turns around and takes your glass of water that you're offering. So if you give an action potential before relaxation, you can get another action potential, so over there, and this will cause a buildup of tension in the muscle and a buildup of tension, and then you get sustained contraction that lasts for a while. So what is the frequency at which I should give these action potentials to the muscle to make a sustained contraction without relaxation? That is called tetanizing frequency. It is the frequency at which you give the impulse, the action potentials, to cause a sustained contraction in the muscle. So if you just give one action potential to a muscle from the alpha motor neuron, you will just get a small flicker in the muscle. It will not cause any significant movement to do anything. You must actually give a continuous train of action potentials in order to cause contraction to take place. Okay, then I want to go from type 1 fibers to discuss type 2b fibers, also known as fast glycolytic. I'm going to talk about type 2a later. First, we're going to talk about type 2b fibers over here, type 2b, also known as fast glycolytic. So these are your white fibers, and they have got less blood supply, less capillary density, and less mitochondria. So because that's what makes them white in color. Now these are muscles that give us quick burst of energy, quick strong movement takes place over here. You develop a fair amount of strength of contraction from these motor units which are innervating the fast glycolytic fibers. And here this is because of different reasons. One is because you have these large diameter muscle fibers, and they have got a very fast type of myosin ATPase activity. That's why they're fast. So the myosin ATPase, it quickly takes the ATP and it quickly breaks it down, and so they are fast, and they don't have too much of oxidative capacity, electron transport chain, mitochondria stuff happening over there. So what they do is they quickly burn up the energy. It's like a fighter jet using its afterburners. It's very inefficient in terms of fuel, but they get a real boost in speed, which they use during certain situations. That's how your fast glycolytic fibers or type 2B fibers work. They focus more on a quick burst of energy. They break down glycogen quickly. They have a fair amount of glycogen in their muscles, and they break it down. They use the sugar very fast to make a lot of ATP in a short period of time, though it's inefficient. It's not like they are doing oxidative phosphorylation. So what happens is they don't need too many mitochondria. They have less number of mitochondria in these cells, and this is going to cause your buildup of ATP very quickly, which makes them very, very easily fatigable. They get fatigued very fast. So if you look at these muscle fibers, they have a high glycolytic capacity, meaning they undergo glycolysis, and usually when you work these muscles for repeated movements, it will undergo anaerobic glycolysis, because they don't have enough mitochondria to do aerobic glycolysis. Now there is something called its use is in fine skilled movement. So like texting and all of that, texting and using your hands for very fine skilled activities. You notice that when you play video games, especially for a while, sometimes your video game fingers get tired, after some time when you're playing a PlayStation or an Xbox or whatever. Now, why are when your fingers get tired, it becomes very difficult to play the game? Well, that's because you have these white fibers that play a role in this fine skilled movement over here, and they get fatigued quite quickly if you're playing, especially for long missions on whatever game you're playing. So here you have also circa ATPase, which is very, very high in its activity. It quickly causes the relaxation of the muscle. Now, the motor neurons that supply these muscle fibers, these motor units, are large diameter. Okay, large diameter. So they are more excitable. However, the circuitry in your CNS is such that these are the last motor units to be recruited. Okay, slow fibers are the first motor units to be recruited for a contraction. Just remember this. I'll explain again in some more time. They are fast recruited, and here fast glycolytic, they are slow or last to be recruited. They are the last to be recruited. Last to be recruited. To recruit UIT. Now, if we see this, the twitch duration is around 7.5 milliseconds. So you give an action potential and you get a quick contraction and relaxation, and that lasts around 7.5 milliseconds. This makes the tetanizing frequency high. That means if you want to sustain contraction, you give an action potential, then you get a contraction. So this little line here represents the action potential, then contraction. If the duration is lesser over here in this muscle, you have to give action potentials in quick succession to maintain a sustained contraction that is known as tetanization. Okay. Now, why did I do fast oxidative glycolytic at the end? Because this is a muscle fiber which has the advantages of both of the other types of muscle fibers. Meaning they have the advantages of the type 1 slow oxidative fibers and the type 2 fast glycolytic fibers. So these are red in color. Red fibers, they have because they're red, they have a lot of a lot of oxidative capacity. They have a lot of capillary density, myoglobin content, and mitochondria. It's maximum. So you could see that the best effects are coming over here. So I'm just going to highlight what's similar over here. You have from this side, from your slow oxidative, the best of slow oxidative taking place. Now, if you look at the myosin ATPase activity, it is fast, so it's able to undergo fast contractions while still maintaining high oxidative capacity, which gives it an advantage of the type 2B fibers. Can you see over here? And if you see the glycolytic capacity over here, it's high, so that means it can also undergo glycolysis when necessary in large amounts. So you're getting the effects of the type 2B fibers, your fast glycolytic fibers benefits also. The diameter is intermediate over here, and for it's good for fine skilled movements also, and yet they are fatigue resistant. They are fatigue resistant. Okay, and now if we look at it, they have high glycolytic capacity, as I said, and their circa ATPase activity is high. So again, you're getting advantages of type 2B fibers over here. And then after that, if you see the motor neuron size, it will be intermediate, and even the diameter of these muscle fibers will be intermediate. And twitch duration is around 7.5. So again, it's a fast twitch muscle fiber, like we said, and that is just like your fast glycolytic fibers you could see over here. Okay, so this is your fast oxidative glycolytic, and the tetanizing frequency is again going to be high. So you have the best of both worlds over here. You have a fast muscle that twitches quickly, that is able to still give continuous contractions, meaning sustained contractions, so they are resistant to fatigue over here. Okay, they have lots of oxidation, and they can also undergo fair amounts of glycolysis as and when required. Now, the thing you should know about FOGs are they are relatively rare. They are present in humans and primates, but they are a little rare in the muscle fibers compared to the slow oxidative and fast glycolytic, the type 1 and the type 2Bs over there. Okay, so that's how it is. That's how our muscle fibers are. Now,